Hi, everybody. So hopefully this video works. Today we're going to talk about the respiratory system. The respiratory system is the reason why we are able to provide our body with oxygen. And in order to do that, we need a way of getting the oxygen into our body, but also a way of getting rid of the waste. And that waste that we produce from cellular respiration is carbon dioxide. Okay. And we produce that carbon dioxide as soon as we break down our food. Okay. So that's where that byproduct of carbon dioxide comes from. So, in case you don't remember, this is the formula for cellular respiration. So, we have glucose, which is C6H12O6, plus oxygen, which is we actually got 6 oxygens. Remember, that's a diatomic molecule here. And then that's going to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. And that energy we actually call a special form of energy, which is called, I'm going to fix that right here, ATP. Okay. And like I said, that ATP, that's our energy source here. So that's where we're getting all of that energy from. Okay. Our respiratory system works really well with the circulatory system. And it does this because in order to exchange all of this gas, there needs to be some sort of traveling tubes or tunnels, so our blood vessels. And then there also needs to be a way to carry that. Okay, so our oxygen is actually going to work with our circulatory system, and we get all of the necessary things to the correct tissue. So, like our muscles, our brain, all of that sort of stuff. And our oxygen actually binds with our hemoglobin. Okay, so that's what happens there. So, this is the structure of our respiratory system. We have our nasal passage here, which we can breathe through. We also have our oral cavity. And this is why if something gets stuck in our throat, we can't actually have oxygen passing through because they all converge in one spot. So the upper part right here, that's our pharynx. Our larynx is right here. That's where we have like our voice box and all of our vocal cords. Our trachea is a long, thick cartilage tube. It has these cartilage rings around it. It's also known, our common name is a windpipe. Okay, the rings of cartilage actually help to provide a lot of structure and to prevent that windpipe from being crushed. So you need to exert quite a bit of force in order to do that. Our ribs are the protective structure around our lungs. And then inside our lungs, we have our bronchi and bronchioles, which is where a lot of the oxygen exchange is going to happen. And our pleural cavity is the cavity in which our lungs sit in. So that's right here. Okay. As we breathe in, our pleural cavity is going to expand, and as we breathe out, the opposite happens. Okay. Inside of our lungs here, we have these little, they're almost look like grape sacks or a bunch of grapes called alveoli. And they're the place where the capillaries are super, super fine and they're intertwining around these. And that is where our gas exchange is going to happen. So oxygen enters from our lungs into our bloodstream, and carbon dioxide is going to leave from our lungs back into our lungs, leave from our bloodstream capillaries back into our lungs to be exchanged with the air around us. Okay, and this is kind of how it looks like it happens. So our carbon dioxide is leaving and our oxygen is entering. Essentially, this is exactly how air is going to pass through our body. We're going to inhale our oxygen with our oral or nasal cavity. It's going to pass along through our pharynx, which is right here, back through our epiglottis. Our epiglottis is this flap of skin that differentiates between our esophagus and our trachea. So the flap of skin, whenever we're not eating, is laying over top of our esophagus so that nothing's going down into our stomach. Okay. It also means that when we are eating, food isn't going down into our lungs. So after it passes our epiglottis, it's going to go through our trachea, into our bronchi, which is right in here, to our bronchioles, and then our alveoli, which are attached at the end of the bronchioles. Then gas exchange is going to happen. Once we need to get rid of that gas, so the carbon dioxide, the opposite is going to happen. So air carrying carbon dioxide is going to be exhaled in the reverse order. So it's going to be exchanged in the alveoli, proceed to the bronchioles, the bronchi, our trachea, epiglottis, pharynx, and then whichever cavity we're exhaling from, which is usually our nasal cavity. The nasal cavity is lined with a couple of things that make this gas exchange super more, I guess, more efficient. So we have epithelial cells in there that have these hair-like projecti called cili, and they're going to sweep away any foreign material so that we're not tracking in dust and dirt into our lungs. We also have a mucus secreting membrane that moistens all of the air for us because the surface has to be moist in order for gas exchange to happen. Remember that water is involved in that gas exchange process, so that moistness needs to happen. And then it's lined with capillaries to help warm the hair as we inhale. This is also why when we exhale, it seems so much warmer, right? We can see our breath outside when it's cold outside. Okay, so this is basically, you guys are going to pause the video and write down the structures for everything. We can talk about it a little bit. So our pharynx is the structure. It's a special word for our throat. The epiglottis, like I said, that's that flap of skin right here that's going to go over top of our trachea so food doesn't go down it. Our trachea is a special word for that, windpipe. It's supported by those cartilage rings that are going to give lots of protection. Our bronchi, or if there's more, or sorry, just one of them, then it's bronchus, are the two branches that lead to each lung. Bronchioles are the further branch off to form the bronchioles, which is where our alveoli sit. And those are the tiny air sacs at the end with a high surface area, and they're all surrounded by a lot of capillaries so gas exchange can happen. This is it for today's video. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how we actually breathe and exchange oxygen, and it's specifically what happens, and then your homework will be listed later on. But this is also going to conclude our biology. So yeah, these are the three systems that we talk about. I hope you guys are doing well. Miss you all.